Hey, how you doing? Outlast 1 wasn't easy 100%. You had your insane difficulty. That was hard, yes, but it was manageable because the game was short. So, after putting off Outlast 2 for years, I finally decided to give it a try since Outlast Trials is due to come out sometime this year. Outlast 2 at first glance has little to no connection to Outlast 1, but after a more thorough investigation we can conclude that it most definitely is connected to Outlast 1. We follow Blake, his wife Lynn, and the helicopter pilot. Can't forget about him. Before a blinding light causes the plane to crash, we wake up as Blake and find the helicopter totally wrecked and the helicopter pilot dead. Later we find Lynn and attempt to escape the cult together. We hear over an intercom, Lynn is pregnant. We later find out the man on the intercom is Noth, the leader of the cult, who long story short believes the baby in Lynn's belly to be the Antichrist. Whilst escaping we run into another group called the Heretics that instead want the birth of the Antichrist to come to fruition. Their leader then licks us,
Nani?
then takes Lynn to the end of the game. A few blinding flashes and very scary encounters later, we are able to reach the end of the game too. We find a very pregnant Lynn, which just isn't possible, but anyways. Blake and Lynn escape the Heretics and are just about out of the woods, but before leaving this dreadful place, Lynn goes into labor and gives birth to a baby. Or does she? We then fall asleep for some reason. Once we awake, we have a mad chat with Noth, who turns out to be a pretty swell guy.
I know God doesn't hear dead men, but I expect he answers them.
We make our exit and before us a beautiful sunset and an entire village of people dead. The entire village has committed a mass suicide via poisoning or failing to prevent the birth of the Antichrist. One final humongous blinding light occurs, appearing to end the world. Or does it? This is my biggest gripe with the story. Outlast 2's story is not clear at all, and even requires you to read comics to get the full picture. So, here's what the game doesn't tell you. You are, in fact, at Murkov's second base of operations, and those blinding lights you see throughout the game are, in fact, a more advanced, morphogenic engine working its magic. This is why everyone you run into is insane, except Ethan. We don't talk about Ethan. A side effect of the morphogenic engine is psychosomatic pregnancy, which explains why Lynn looks to be pregnant at the end of the game, but also why she doesn't see the baby. Because while she has been underground, Blake on the other hand has been above ground being hit by the morphogenic over and over again, leading him into going insane like Noth and the other cultists. To find out what really happens in the ending, we must dive into the comics, and we discover that the final flashing light we see at the end of the game is actually the War Rider. Yeah, that's right. The War Rider from Outlast 1 is in fact controlling ants. F***ing ants. He uses the ants to knock down the main tower, stopping the morphogenic engine. Presumably, I guess, that's what he does. We also discover that in the aftermath, they find Blake alive and well and send him to be tested on at their facility. I really wish that we got a DLC playing as Blake at this facility, so then at the very least the game actually explained itself rather than relying on you to find out from outside sources. But hey, that's just me. Before we move on, I'll mention that I completely glossed over the visions Blake experiences throughout the game. During these visions, we play as Blake, as a child, which is cool, sure, and it's scary, but it adds nothing to the story. The only thing we really discover is that Blake was a motherfucking player, like goddamn, holy shit. But also that one of his teachers was a child molester that broke his friend's neck and forced Blake to keep quiet about it.
Stay. I want you to stay.
Outlast 1 had really nice movement, so when Outlast 2 came out, it was no surprise that the movement was great as well. You even had new movement techniques such as the slide, but there was just one teensy little mechanic that was added to Outlast 2 that made me absolutely lose my f***ing mind.
Thanks.
Wait, what the f*** is this guy doing here? I just lost the stamina consumption. Why stamina? I had to sit there and wait for stamina again, and I didn't even know that guy would come this way. Not a single soul asked for a stamina gauge red barrel, let alone one with no indication of how much stamina you have left. It doesn't help that we are playing as the sweatiest, fattest redditor in your mum's basement who hasn't touched grass in 17 years. Blake will walk 5 steps and he'll be reaching for his f***ing puffer. Let's just say hypothetically, you find yourself in the same situation as Blake. Are you going to slow your fat ass down because you're out of breath and then die a grisly death like this? Hell the fuck no you ain't, you're gonna fucking keep running. When this game comes to being scary, it also sadly falls short in that department. Which, honestly, isn't a bad thing. The entire Western country village theme they're going for is brilliant. I loved everything about it. Martyr is terrifying, and North is severely underused, but still left an impact, even if he never chases you once. I mean, just look at how stunning this area is during the daytime. But then you reach the raft section, and the game goes severely downhill. It really doesn't help that this game's villains, in comparison to Outlast 1, are just not scary at all. Like this guy right here, still gives me nightmares. Then in Outlast 2, you have these buffoons that fail to kill you not once, but twice. These guys feel like they should be in Scooby-Doo, not Outlast for Christ's sake. The first time I looked at the trophy list and saw that a 5-year-old game still has a 0.1 completion rate, I knew I was in for a great time. Outlast 2's trophies are either extremely stupid or insanely hard. Obviously, the only trophies worth mentioning here are Saint and Messiah. In case you don't know what these 2 trophies require from you, here's a quick rundown. Saint asks you to just finish a run on insane difficulty. Sounds pretty easy, right? No, you're a f***ing idiot. It's hard. It requires you to do a deathless run of the game. The entire game. And if you die, it sends you back to the main menu. Now, if you thought that wasn't hard enough, Messiah then asks you to do that same run with only using 1 battery. So, this is pretty much what the majority of the run looks like. You see anything? Yeah, me fucking either. It's funny, I actually would be okay with this run if these devs would let me skip these cutscenes. God, devs. Just devs. Any devs in the entire world of devs. Anybody making a video game. Make it so you can skip cutscenes in your game. Otherwise your game is doomed to die in the replayability department and in speedrunning and all that shit. Just stop. Stop making cutscenes that aren't skippable. It's not a thing people... I know. Especially with these short attention spans coming, and because, you know, shorts and stuff, our attention spans are getting shorter as well. Listen, so many reasons for us to make cutscenes skippable, and just do it. Otherwise, I'm gonna murder someone. I don't know. Just do it, please. if you look at my hours for Outlast 1 and 2, you see that... Oh. I had the same amount of hours in both of them. Huh. I really thought I would have surely had more hours in Outlast 2. Well. Yeah. That's the difference between these two. I enjoyed playing Outlast 1. I continued to come back each and every time. If a friend wanted to play a scary game, Outlast 1 was it. It would be the first game that would come to mind. Maybe Visage now, but at the time, it was Outlast 1. Whereas Outlast 2 is a prime example of quantity over fucking quality, boys. Not bad by any means, but just not better.